We're back with the beginning of a new era for Twitter. CNBC reporting that Tesla CEO Elon Musk is now at the helm of the social media giant this morning, citing multiple sources. Musk had until today to complete that back-and-forth $44 billion deal or face a battle in court.
In a potential sign Musk was closing in on the takeover, he posted this video, take a look at it, of his arrival at Twitter's headquarters in San Francisco this week. As you can see, it looks like that is a sink. Yep, just a normal sink. Saying he's met with several people at the company. NBC News technology correspondent Jake Ward joins us now with the latest and hopefully an answer as to what is going on with the sink. Jake, good to see you. So CNBC is also reporting that 2 top Twitter executives have already left the company. They won't be coming back. Walk us through what we know about where we're at with the deal and the fallout. And I mean, yeah, if you know anything about the sink, we'd appreciate that information as well.
Well, that's right. So, Savannah, I'm not sure I can answer the sink thing. It seems to have been a meme he wanted to put in. He put the caption of that tweet, let that sink in. So, you know, trying to sort of extend his range as a meme lord, it seems. But we know that this week he was closing in on this. You know, he had been up against the wall. If this day, Friday, had gone by, 2 p.m. today, Pacific, if that had gone by and he hadn't closed this deal, then he would be open to a new trial, which nobody seems to have wanted. And he seems to have closed this deal after waffling over the past few months as to whether he really wanted to pursue Twitter. So now he seems to be in charge. Sources inside say that, yes, the CEO, Parag Agrawal, the CFO, and the head of trust and safety, who was a member of the legal team, were all let go and may have even been escorted from the building. So he came right in and did this sort of theatrical, you know, dethroning of the top executives at Twitter. Now he is there and in charge, and we're all sort of waiting to see what happens next. Typically, I would be, you know, looking at one of these transitions and saying, well, there will be, you know, a lot of sort of vagaries and so forth and pleasantries as the transition happens. That does not seem to be the case with the transition here, you guys.
Yeah, the time for pleasantries seems to have already passed. And Jake, Musk did reveal part of his vision for Twitter, saying he wants to see it become a global leader in advertising and brand awareness. He also said, quote, Twitter obviously cannot be a free-for-all hellscape where anything can be said with no consequences. So do we know what sort of changes Musk is planning in the near term?
We certainly don't know, you know, definitively what he has in mind. We only know the things that he has said in the past. He has talked about taking it private. That's something that he has talked about quite openly. And we know that he is now in a position where he has to reassure advertisers. Twitter, as you know, makes its money off advertising. And, you know, coming in, dethroning the top people, saying everything that he has been saying critically about Twitter in the last few months, he still has to come in there and convince advertisers that they should be on there. And that seems to be the origin of that statement, which is the most complete comments we have so far about his plans. And it's a funny list because it describes wanting to create a, quote, warm and welcome environment for all, and yet one that is also a digital town square, but is also a respected advertising platform. It's a very complicated, some people have even said to me, contradictory list of ambitions for this thing. You know, it is a very, very difficult thing to run a social media platform. Content moderation alone is an incredibly heavy lift. And so it's not at all clear what's going to happen if, especially, he continues to knock people out of that place as he shapes it in his own image, you guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting now that he's at the helm because he's had such public opinions on content moderation to see exactly how that goes into play. Jake, you talk about these sort of marching out of some of these executives. There's also been reports of more widespread layoffs impacting up to potentially 75% of Twitter staff. The company has denied that, but do we know anything at this point about a larger scale potential restructuring?
Well, when I have been speaking to people inside and formerly of Twitter about it, everybody is worried about their jobs and quite demoralized, you know, is one of the themes that I've been hearing from a lot of people. We don't know exactly what his plans are going to be. The Washington Post, as you mentioned, reported that he had told bankers he was going to lay off up to 75% of the workforce. But, you know, at this point, it's probably going to be a smaller number than that. But this is the thing. I mean, this is a company that really depends on labor to do that content moderation, right? That alone is a really difficult thing. And so all his plans for fighting bots, creating a super version of the app, these are the things he says that he wants to do there. Those are very labor-intensive things. And so it's not at all clear how he's going to do that while scaling back the number of people that work there. So everybody's going to be watching the next few weeks. And certainly I think it's going to be not at all the kind of choreography we're used to, where you see sort of quiet moves, this and that and the other. I think we're going to see a lot more big moves from Elon Musk in even his first hours as the new head of Twitter, you guys.
Yeah, this is one I think in some ways we're sort of sick of talking about, but we also can't look away because it really is interesting to see what's going to unfold. Jake Ward, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.